Now let us explore the offset function. With the help of the offset function, you can direct Excel to where to go to and what to select. So we have this function, something like this. It returns a reference to a range, that is a given number of rows and columns from a given reference. So what exactly is this reference? Just like the game of chess, you might have a starting point for each pawn or a rook or a bishop or any piece of chess. Similarly, here for the offset function, you might want to give a starting reference point, which could be anywhere on the Excel file or the worksheet. But generally, we have it relevant to the data. For example, if I give this as the starting point, okay, on the extreme top left corner for this, from here, I can direct Excel, or rather the offset function, where to move, by how many rows should it move, and by how many columns should it move. And then we can also specify the height and width. Mind you, these two parameters are in square brackets, and so these are optional. But so at least we should be able to mention how many rows to move by and how many columns to move by. Okay, let me show you an example here. First, we have a case wherein we have the list of students over here and their scores in 3 of the subjects. Now we would like to first know John's score in economics. Well, it would always be easy to just select a cell and hit enter. That's absolutely fine. Now there won't be any rocket science in this entire exercise over here, but still I just want to show you the essence of or the primary way of how the offset function works. So we have here offset. We can select this as the reference point, and from here, now where is John? He's 1 row below, so I want the offset function to come down by 1 row, so I set 1 for rows, and now we need to know the scores of economics. So John's score of economics is in the very next column, so move ahead by 1 column, close the bracket, and that's it. As simple as that. Now you might wonder why make it complicated when we could have just done it easier. Hold your horses, you'll soon understand why this is so very resourceful. Offset function by itself may not appear to add any value. At least that's how it appears so. But there is more than what meets the eye. As we proceed, you will learn this. Meanwhile, let us also try another one over here by identifying Maya's score in accounting. So we say offset. We can use the same reference point. Well, in case if you want, I can use this reference point as well. But what if I use this reference point? Then I want to know Maya's score in accounting. And their starting reference point is Maya, right? So do I want the function to move by any number of rows? Well, I do not want to, because we are already on the right row. So rows will be 0. Now columns. Now this is for accounting, and accounting is 3 columns ahead. So I will put number 3 here, and close the bracket. That's it. Well, in case if you want to try a similar one with David's score in statistics, I can also have the starting point for the offset function as statistics with the reference point in the same column as the score required for statistics. Now I want to know, or I want to instruct offset function to move by 3 rows down, because that's where David is. So 3 rows down. And do I need to move by any number of columns? No. We want the scores of statistics and we are already in that right column. So 0. Close the bracket. Here we have this. Now let me also add one more item in this list. I'll just move this down here and set it here. Now let's say I want Maya's score in economics. Now this would very much appear to be the same, but let me try something different here. This time I use the offset function, and I will not have the reference point anywhere randomly here, but I would have it just outside the table or maybe on the last cell of the table. That should be fine. Now, I need Maya's score in economics. So Maya is 2 rows above. Okay, so now if I give a positive number 2, when you give a positive number for rows, Excel will select down by 2 rows, or rather I would say offset function will move down by 2 rows. Please cut whatever I said that Excel will know. I'll just repeat it again. So offset function will move down by 2 rows. So this is where the selection would be E10. But do we need that? No, we want it here. So if it needs to go upside for rows, we need to use a minus sign. And that's a -2. A +2 will make the offset function come down by 2 rows, and a -2 indicates move up by 2 rows. Now similarly for columns, here it is 2 columns to the left, economics is 2 columns to the left. So if I put 2, by default the offset function will move 2 columns to the right here in column G. But I want it to move to 2 columns to the left. So again, I need to put -2 here. And here we have this, 58. Well, in case if you want to test it without the minus sign, let me show you how does it show up. We have 2 rows and 2 columns, right? So with this starting point, it's coming down by 2 rows and moving to the right by 2 columns. If I put number 10 here, well, you see, it takes it. With this as a starting point, and if I give the row reference and column reference in positive, it came down by 2 rows and moved right by 2 columns. And whatever it had marked this particular cell. Now, whatever you enter in this cell, like test or so, it will appear here. And that's how it works. So, in order to move towards the left, that is change columns or move columns towards the left, you need to use a minus sign. And similarly, if you wanted to move up by any number of rows, you need to give the number with a negative. Now, we would also like to know, this is an extra row over here, I'll remove this. So now we would also like to know the total score of Alice. So far we had just selected a particular cell. We had identified and marked a particular cell over here, but this time we need a group of cells, right? So first let me just format this here. Now total of Alice. So it should be something like offset reference. Let's have this as a reference for now. And I need the total score of Alice. So Alice is 4 rows down, come down by 4 rows, move right by 1 column. Now here we will explore the height and width feature. The height here represents number of rows that you want to cover from here. So as of now, we have asked offset function to come by 4 rows down and columns by 1. So here's where cursor should be for the offset function, the starting point. Now here on, we just need the score of Alice, so the height is just of 1 row. Now let me tell you, the height and width cannot be 0. The minimum should be 1. Because when you specify 0, that means 0 rows. And there is no way that you would not select any row while using the offset function. So minimum should be 1. That's the height. Now what if I would have selected 3 as the height? It would have selected 89 and 2 rows below. So it's a 3, height of 3. That's including the current cell where it is halting and 2 more cells down. That's the height of 3. Now in case if I do not want to select the bottom 2 cells but the upper 2, then I need to specify the height in negative. That's -3. So while we have mapped the offset function to come here at this position, that is 4 rows down and 1 column to the right. Since we selected the height as -3, it is 1, 2, 3. These 3 cells will be selected, and that's the height. So when you say height or width, it includes the existing cell. As of now, we just need 1. So whether you put -1 or +1, it does not matter because it just means the same row itself. Now width, here we are covering 3 subjects at a shot. So 1, 2, 3. The width should be 3, which includes the subject or the cell where we already are. Close the bracket and notice something different here. You see, this is a form of spill error. We had 3 cells covered and Excel has identified all 3 cells over here. For those using older versions of Excel, you might get the hash value error here. Now, since Office 2019 onwards, it is no longer giving you a hash value error, but rather it treats it like an array, and hence it's a spill error It's a spill error here. This one function is not able to accommodate all the 3 cells in one cell. Excel cannot do that. So what is the purpose of this offset function? So whenever you have the height and width specified, or rather I would say whenever you have the height and width greater than 1, either of them or both, then you need to encapsulate them within some aggregate function. Now these aggregate functions should be something like the sum, or you can also use the average, min, max, and so on. As of now, we need the total score, so we'll use the sum function and close the bracket. Here we have the sum function. Now I can understand you would say that this would have been really easy. I would have just used the sum function and that's it, all here. That's absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong in this. But first, I'm trying to explain to you how this offset function works. Understand the nature of how this works, and we can use it for real robust dynamic calculations. So here we have the total function. So here we have the sum function, and under that we have the offset function. So technically, if you realize what exactly is happening is, offset function does nothing but the selection. So far, earlier over here, we were just selecting one cell, so it returned the value of that one cell. But here we are selecting an entire range. So this is as good as, let's say I wanted to take a sum of these 3 cells. And if I do not give the sum, average, or any function, just highlight them, select them as it is, and hit enter, it spills up over here. And this is exactly what the offset function is doing there. For those using older versions of Excel, you will see a hash value error. But what exactly did we do here? We just selected the range. That's it. Offset function also does the same. It just selects the range. What should you do with the range? Now that is up to us. We encapsulated the selection within the sum function. So this is as good as sum and selecting the range. So the offset function is actually giving. Let us try one more. We need total score of Maya. So I need a sum function, and under that I put offset. Now we can give a different reference point here. So for example, let's say I will use this as a reference point, or here. That's okay. This is just for practice purpose. And I want the total score of Maya. Okay. Now Maya is 2 rows above, so -2. Now, how many columns should I jump from? There are 2 ways I can do. Either I can bring the cursor over here. I ask offset function to stay over here or stay here. So right now it's 2 rows above, but Maya is 3 rows above. So my bad, it's 3 rows above, -3. So we have 1, 2, 3. This is where the cursor should be for offset. Now, do we want the selection to start from economics? If yes, then I would say move columns to the left by 3. So that's -3. Now height will be 1 because we are only concerned about the scores of Maya. And width will be 3. Right? So what exactly is happening here? Move up by 3 rows, move left by 3 columns, and select 3. With a height of 1, select width as 3. So the selection is happening this way. Hit enter. Well, I did not close the bracket for some function, so Excel is giving me this error. Let's do it. Here we have this. Let's take a total of Maya's scores. So yes, it's 141. This is perfect. Let me also do it the other way around. Here we use the sum function and say offset. Keeping the same reference point, I say move up by 3 rows. And this time, instead of starting from economics, I would have the selection from accounts. So I say move left by 1 column. So accounting is where 3 rows up and 1 column to the left. Accounting is the cell which has been selected. That's cursor on 37, or the offset function is sitting here. Now from this, height is 1 and width. This time we need to select all the 3 subjects and the rest of 2 subjects are towards the left. So we will specify the width in negative, that's -3. When you say -3, it's current cell and the last 2 cells on the left. And that's it. Let's close the sum function and hit enter. It does the same job. Earlier we specified the width to be 3 because we got the offset function sitting here and then select this. Now the other approach was let the offset function sit here and select backwards. Either ways, it does the job. Now try the other 3. Over here, you need to use the average function here, the highest score and lowest score. Now this is something we had worked on. Now it makes use of those functions which we had discussed in basic Excel. Try it by yourself, take a pause, try it by yourself and come back to this video. Alright, so let's start with the average function. I want to take an average score in economics. Now this is subject-wise scores, right? So we say average and offset. Now this time I can give a reference point over here. Jump down by how many rows? It's just 1 because scores start from 1 row below. And jump or move right by how many columns? Just 1 because we are focusing on economics. Now this time what would be the height? The height would be 4. That we have 1 row down and 1 column to the right. This is where the offset function is sitting and we want all these 4 cells to be selected. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 including the cell where it is. Height of 4, width of 1 because it's 1 column that we are working on, right? It cannot be 0. Here we have the average of 72. Well, in case if you want, you can select this and take a look at the bottom part of the window. You can see the average. Now let's try the highest. We have the max function and let's try, I'll give this for statistics. I'll give this as a reference point. We can select any reference point, but I'm giving you different versions of or different approaches of deriving your results. So this is also another approach. You can do the same thing as what you did for economics, just that it's with the max function and the columns that you shift would be 2. But this time it's statistics where we are putting the starting point and max. Here under this, I'll use the offset function. This as the reference point. I want it to come down by 1 row, but do not go anywhere. Stay in the same column. Height will be 4 because we have 4 records here. Width will be 1. Close the bracket. Okay, I missed on closing the bracket for the max function. So I accept it. And here we have the max of these. That's 85. Now let us try a similar one for the lowest in accounting. So we say min offset. Now I can also put my starting point over here. Let's say I put my reference point over here. Now I want to take the minimum of the scores in accounting and this starting point is somewhere within one of the scores of accounting, and that's absolutely fine. Now if you fall into this scenario or situation, how would you craft your function or your formula? So sitting in this position, I don't want the function to go anywhere. Don't move by any number of rows and don't move by any number of columns. You are at the right place. Now height, from here it's 4, but the rest of the cells are up over there. So height should be -4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And width, we are in the same column, so we don't need to worry about the width. We can keep that as 1, close the bracket, and close the bracket for min function, hit enter. Here we have this, 37. So I've explained you different variation and how to get your desired results using the offset function.